I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings,
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
All right, welcome back to the Bodybuilding Legends Podcast, and I have two very special legends with us today, both Mr. America and Mr. Universe winners. First, we got Mr. Matt DuFresne, who was the 1989 Mr. America and also the NABBA Mr. Universe that same year. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
And then we've got Mr. Jeff King, one of the legends in the sport, 1983 AAU Mr. America and 1983 NABBA Mr. Universe winner. So welcome to the show, guys. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
I have to have a wry smile when I hear my name associated with anything legend. I don't know, man. I don't know about that, but okay.
Well, Matt, if you make it this long, then you're a legend.
Yeah. It's no joke in light of what's been going on.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to talk to you guys because you're both basically AAU and NABBA competitors, and a lot of the guys I talk to are, of course, IFBB champions. So I definitely wanted to cover more of the AAU and the NABBA because there were some really great champions back in those days.
Sure were.
And I started competing in '79, so I grew up in Chicago, and that was a real pro AAU state. I mean, there was it took a while for them to switch over from the AAU to the NPC, even after the NPC started. So you guys were both from the East Coast, right? And that's when you started the AAU competing?
Yep.
Yeah, actually, John, I competed AAU and NPC because I grew up in Jersey.
Okay.
In my whole career, I was equally NPC and AAU.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, until the Mr. America. And that was the first year. That was Paris, I believe, who the first
Paris,
nationals, because if you recall, they were going through all the legal battles for who owned the title
Mr. America. That's right.
Yeah. So as I was coming through, actually a week before or 2 weeks before the Mr. America, I won the NPC Eastern America or whatever. I can't remember the name of the show. It was in Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
And when they won that right, every idol, Dale Adrian, Ronnie, Tufel ever won the America?
I think he did win the America. Tufel did.
Ron Tufel?
Tony Pearson beat him.
Tony Pearson, that's right.
Yeah,
Tony Pearson. I mean, every one of my heroes, they were, it was, Bob Hoffman's. It was strength and health and alternating, muscular development. But so that year, Bob Gruskin was like, hey, you want to be Mr. America? And so that's why I went into the AAU America, because it was Mr. America, and it was the first year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah, because I think the NPC started in '82, but they called it the American Bodybuilding Championships. Yeah, but then the '83 it was the Nationals. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the main reason, right, Jeff? Because the title, Mr. America.
Yeah. That's I grew up. I competed both. I could give a hoot. But I did want to be Mr. America. So, it was the first year. Who knew,
Yeah.
So,
did you feel the same way, Matt, when you were doing?
This is to be completely candid. The reason I wanted to do Mr. America and Mr. Universe was because Jeff did it. and I was a snot-nosed kid, 16 years old, I think. And Jeff, you were getting ready for probably, I don't know if you'd have come up to Big Daddy's for the Collegiate America. I don't think so. I think it was for the Mr. America that you moved to Big Daddy's. Is that right? From Central City?
Yeah. I'm trying to, I remember the Collegiate, and
it was in Hartford. You went with Larry Tyler, and you put on a hell of a show that year. Wicked.
I was in college. I was in 82, maybe.
Right, 82. Right,
82. So I was at Big Daddy's then. I was still
okay. So Jeff basically single-handedly got me to quit bodybuilding for 3 to 4 months until he disappeared, winning shows and being busy somewhere else. Because, you know, when you're 15 and you see Jeff training in the gym, you're like, how can I aspire to that, you know? So
Right.
then he disappeared. I went back and then I said, okay, I'm gonna get my wheels spinning and worked out. But yeah, Jeff started a whole, you really did, Jeff. You started a whole thing at Big Daddy's where people said, well, wait a minute. You know, we all train together. We all, you know, the Joe Gomes, the Rich Roys, the Art Princes, the it was a you like popped the balloon, and then everybody's like, well, fuck, we want to go, you know.
The 4-minute mile. You think the 4-minute mile? Right.
It's in that little pub that was Springfield, Mass, Big Daddy's. It was crazy. 83, 84, 85. You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, you're right. It did. Like I said, it was that I think 4-minute mile, because there are a lot of good guys that came out of that gym. And you know, Matt, the thing I always wished I had on you is because I used to say to you, hey, I won the American Universe back to back, and then you had to go do it. I thought for sure.
Yeah, and I think you were one of the youngest. Maybe Casey Viator. I know he won the America at 19. I don't know if he won the universe.
I forget.
One of my dogs is talking to me. Sorry.
There's a few guys. I remember there's just a couple guys that won the American Universe back to back. I can't remember who they were, but so you know that was a little different, but yeah, that was that gym. And you know, honestly, John, if you could have seen that gym, it was Ed Jubenville equipment, right?
Yep.
Wow. No kidding.
I mean, all
metal on metal sleeves.
Yeah, that's right. And then the leg curl machine, I had Rick have them weld. Remember the plate holders on top, so that when it came so far, mechanically you'd keep getting tension,
right?
Because hard at the top but weak at the bottom.
Right.
Wow.
It was and it was very dangerous in that gym.
Oh, you know that I was thinking about this. Okay, I was in the gym when so we had a power rack and it was lag bolted into the concrete through the drywall into the concrete, and it was there for 10 years with 600, 800, 1,000 pounds banging on it all the time.
Wow.
And this huge, I think he was probably 6'6", Bill Tolliver. Remember
Bill Tolliver? Yeah.
So Bill Tolliver racks 500 or 600 pounds onto the rack, turns around, taking off his belt, and somebody literally Superman's across the gym and pushes him out of the way as the whole rack comes out of the wall and slams onto the ground. You know, I mean, yeah, it was crazy. Somebody's in the basement and all the drywall comes down in the shower. But
Matt, don't forget my broken nose, please.
Oh, yeah,
John,
that was rough.
John, there was a bench I took off the floor because a Jubenville bench, you know, had you could
screws.
Yeah.
Right. And the screws, you know, the nuts, they were crap, you know, and the screws. So I took it off the floor. So then it comes back. We had Guy Lasorsa, who was a world champion arm wrestler.
Yep.
So he says, hey, man, he says, Jeff, can you give me, he was doing skull crushers, and he was on that bench. And I'm thinking, oh, it's fixed. So he had about 175 pounds on that. I lift it up. He does it. I take it. He sits up. I put it down on the edge of the bench, and, you know, it was hanging off. It just catapulted.
Oh, man.
Me square in the nose.
Oh.
It knocked me to the ground. And we were getting ready to go to Buffalo. What show are we going to, Matt?
Junior America. Yeah, Junior America.
Yeah, and I had to get on a plane. I arrived in Buffalo. Chris Reichard, who owned
World Gym. Yeah.
And he took me to the emergency room, and I got and it's still crooked.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, there's some good stories.
Dangerous gym, man.
So that was in Springfield, Mass, that gym?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron Lewis was from that X too.
Who?
Aaron Lewis from Stained.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep. And he trained at my gym for a little bit at the Golds when I opened up. Aaron Lewis. Yep.
Did he really?
Yeah. Wysocki, the drummer. John Wysocki. I think he was the drummer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of talent that came out of Massachusetts was unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, how old were you when you won the America?
22.
Wow, yeah. Because I know you won the collegiate the year before.
Yep. 21.
That was Hartford. I think Hartford or Waterbury. I think. I was there. I went down with a few people, and we were. That was a crazy show. Larry Tyler was awesome.
Yeah, Chicago. Jeff Munson was.
Yeah. That's right. He was in your class, right?
Yeah. No, I think. I was the medium tall. He was the tall, and then they had the medium and the short.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He was a nice guy.
Yeah. He competed. He was from the Rockford area, I think.
Yeah, he was. He trained. What was the big gym in Rockford there? That's where. What's that?
Champions Gym.
Was it Champions or Quads? Was there a Quads?
Oh, there was a Quads too. Yeah, maybe he was.
Yeah, because I think Larry Bernstein trained it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Now, what age did you start competing? Because you were a teenager Mr. America also, right?
Yeah. I always tell people I did a meteoric and quickly snuffed out career for whatever things you want to talk about, but it's I think I went from the teenage Mr. Bay State at 17 to Mr. Universe at 23 and done. So it didn't take a lot of time. And again, Big Daddy's. We had the recipe. We knew how to do it.
Right.
So the first few years I was under the shadow of Ted Lopes. I remember. He's a fantastic bodybuilder. He won the 94 NABBA Universe medium tall, I think. Just phenomenal bodybuilder. But every time I competed as a teenager in Mass, he was there, and he was leagues ahead of every other teenager there. And then
he was a gentleman too. He was a real gentleman.
I haven't met a Lopes family member that wasn't a gentleman. They were all nice guys. But then I went out to Fresno for the Teenage Mr. America, and I was lucky there. You know what my claim to fame is at the Teenage Mr. America?
I know it was Flex Wheeler, right?
What's that? Yeah. See, again, just bullshit luck, being at the right place at the right time at the right age. But I'm one of few that can say, yes, at one time I beat Flex Wheeler.
Yeah.
Or he ever blossomed into the gargantuan person he was. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was doing a little research and I saw Ken Wheeler won the class. Yeah. Medium tall class. How did he look, Pat?
Oh, he was shredded, and he was a consummate poser. He probably hadn't gotten involved in anything related to gear, so he wasn't full. Yeah. And literally, within 2 more years, he would have been so far out of reach, it wouldn't even be funny. So he was truly gifted. Him and somebody like Sean Ray are just as far as their physiques and their roundness and fullness and aesthetics, just special.
Yeah. Jeff, who was your like Matt said that you were the guy that he looked up to when he was a teenager. Who did you look up to? Because I know Mike Quinn was big at that time, right before you.
No, Mike was the same. He was around. We were around the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the same time because Mike. I remember Bob Gruskin was working with Mike, and I think we're pretty close to the same age even.
Okay.
But I'm really trying to, of course, early on, Robbie Robinson.
Yeah.
And, you think I was only 17, right? They used to have training partners. But, when I came to Springfield and Pat Hayes, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah. Remember Pat Hayes?
Yeah. Pat.
When he wasn't running from husbands and stuff. Yeah. I mean, he was a great guy and a good bodybuilder.
Well, here's the funny thing is, I had a different upbringing bodybuilding wise, because I met Bob when I was 17 maybe it was 17 at the Teenage New Jersey. So New Jersey was a good state too. That was,
it was, yeah.
They had a lot of good bodybuilders. And Mike Antorino, I remember seeing Mike for the first time, and he had the snake tattooed on his back.
Right, I remember you told me that, yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome, So, every time like Bob brought me, I met Bob at that Teenage Mary. He called my parents, said, I'd like to bring to the Night of Champions. And I met Wayne D'Amelia, and that was sort of like Steve Mahalik too,
Oh yeah, New York.
But I went to the Night of Champions. That was like my first like real introduction to bodybuilding. I met Robbie Robinson, Tony Pearson, Ron Tufel, and like these were what was his name? He was
guys that you see in magazines,
Yeah.
McAway, Muhammad McAway.
Oh wow, really?
McAway, or however you say it. But I mean, I was meeting like guys I was seeing in
magazines.
In magazines. So that was my standard, and but then Bob, when I came to college, Bob set me up with Pat Hayes. That was like, that's like, I was this kid from Jersey who was pretty naive. I grew up on the shore, and actually one of my first, like, I was like odd with this guy, Bob Ottmer, had a gym in Lakewood, New Jersey. My father said, if you're going to lift weights, you're going to do it right. I'm going to bring you to Bob Ottmer. Since back in the day when the gyms were in people's basements,
Sure.
And I remember walking there was this Puerto Rican guy doing dumbbell overhead tricep. And I was just, my eyes were hanging out of my head. It was just real. And then his Guy Mustalish was his name. And he worked at the hospital in the ED, but he opened the first gym I ever knew of that was above ground, and it was called Building Room in Bricktown, New Jersey. And I really looked up to this guy. Like, he was, and then, he was from Jersey. His last name is Siegel, and I think he freaked me out too. And then they're up in Orange, New Jersey. I'd go to these shows, and Frank Wainwright, who was actually gunned down and killed. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? The older guy. Him, Matt. I can't think of it. He was always the poser. He was an older guy. It'll come to me. But I met him, and Joe Fulco. If you remember Joe Fulco.
Sure. Yeah, I had Joey on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and how could I forget John DeFendis?
Yeah.
John DeFendis actually was the first bodybuilder that Bob Gruskin introduced me to. And I remember it as clear as day. I went to watch the Mr. Suburban in Orange, because we always went up to those shows. And there was John, and he comes up, and Bob's like, hey, I want you to meet John. And John looked like a monster. I mean, he had this sweater on. And he had on these pants that looked like stockings because his quads were huge. And I just, the same thing. I'm like, hi, how you doing? All the time I was always introduced to these guys, that were, they were on the track, man. And I was this gangly kid. I never thought I'd amount to anything. Actually, when Bob's like, oh, you got good lines, I'm like, I don't think so, man. And I trained in a gym in New Jersey, again, in a cellar that me and my buddies from high school, Scott McGarry, Carl Massano, and they built this gym in Scott's gym, and that's where we trained. And we used to pose and get the magazines, and Richie Schuler. I mean, I remember these guys, but, even those guys I looked up to, because, they were on. Carl was the first guy I ever saw squat 300. Holy Christ,
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like the people I looked up to, they were a multitude, and for different reasons. It just kept getting bigger and bigger as I got in the sport,
Yeah, it was great back in those days because, like you said, Matt, we had the magazines, and we would see all these guys in the magazines. So whenever you met them in person, or even like the younger guys, like DeFendis or something that you heard about, I mean, it was just so inspirational, seeing these guys, because you don't see them like nowadays. I think everybody sees them on social media, so it becomes a little more familiar with them, but back then they were almost like movie stars,
Yeah, like gods. Do you know when I went to the Night of Champions, the first thing that blew me away is I expected to walk in there. I thought they'd all be 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
I really did. And I remember walking in Danny Padilla. He was one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
Danny Padilla. I'm bigger than him. I'm looking at the top of his head.
Yeah, right.
This is insane. I just expected them all to be giants. Like, really?
Yeah.
But he looked good on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, John DeFendis, I met at Bob's once. He and I both won the USA the same year. I won the AAU USA and he won the NPC USA. So in muscular development ran a flip open where you had both of us there, and it was interesting. We had some really interesting conversations at Bob about growing up and him training with Mahalik. I love John, but I think he's got PTSD to the point where he can't think of any type of training other than 75 sets for biceps and you're bleeding through your nose and then you're done your workout, No thanks, man, I'm done. I'll do my 6 sets and call it a day.
Did you guys ever train with Mahalik?
I never did.
No. Yeah.
I would have ran.
I would have too. What was he called it? Intensity insanity training.
Yeah.
I think more on insanity myself.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Matt, did you work with Gruskin also?
Yeah. I did for the last few years. We flew around in the same circles. I was kind of a jerk when I was a teenager, and at the Teenage Mr. Bay State, I'm literally 145 pounds, winning the short class. And I'm like, well, you need bodybuilders to sell your magazines. Like, what am I thinking? Like what? So I see him there. We talk. He's like, wow, you're shredded. You need more size. I meet him at the Teenage Mr. Mass. I think 10 months later, I'm probably 10, 12 pounds heavier. He's like, oh, okay. I meet him at the Teenage Mr. America. We're still not working together, but he knows who I am. And the first time that he actually gave me advice was at the Mr. Atlantic States. He brought Vinny Conzo up.
Oh, Vinny, that's right. Yeah.
And Vinny was a mountain, but he wasn't cut. I don't know where he was. He was, some of these big guys were doing preparatory shows. They come in a little smooth, but just get your kinks ironed out.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob and I were talking, and he's like, okay, well, show me what you got. And I showed him a most muscular, and he goes, well, can you do a trap over? And I don't know what a trap over is or was, and he goes, well, your traps, can you get them to come over? And I did. And he goes, oh, fuck, just like that. Cause Vinny didn't win. I won. And from then on, Bob and I were kind of like, okay, so what do you want to do next? And, that's kind of how it happens. It's not like it's not a contract. It's so, what are your thoughts? What do you want to do next? And then you put a plan together and you're working with Bob,
Yeah. Now, would he help you guys with your nutrition, with your training, with your diet?
A little bit for me, a little bit.
Okay.
See, it's so funny. He would definitely steer me, but I had to do everything on my own. It's just.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never followed anyone's. It's not that I didn't follow advice, but first, when I started college, my background was in exercise science.
Right.
I to the point of before the America, I wasn't going in the America. I was going away to chiropractic school in Missouri, and Bob's like, oh, it's a lot. You need to get ready for school. I said, well, I want to do one more before I go. So it was a show. It was the NPC show that was 3 weeks from the America, but I had no interest. And like I did the science, I did textbook science dieting, I counted my calories. I did hydrostatic weighing at school because I had access to all the equipment. And I remember Bob came up and he said, well, what's that to look at? He came up and he looked at me and he said, oh, he goes, we're going to the Americas. So yeah, I just had my own thing. Like that's how bodybuilding was to me. I could give a rat's ass, of course you want to win, but I never cared. It's, I figured, hey, that's opinion. For me, it was about come in for me. It's like an artist, it's like, hell, if no one likes your artwork, I'm an artist, man. This is what I do. And so if I failed, I definitely would listen to some of this stuff, around the supplements, like, take this. It's funny to this day, I always blame Bob. Before the teenage America, I always got over lean too fast. And so Bob said, well, I want you to take some kelp for iodine. It'll get you, well, it's loaded with salt. And I showed up the show. He looked at me and goes, what the hell happened to you? I didn't change my diet. I was never afraid to be hungry,
Yeah.
And I always figured I'll come in too light. Who cares if you're lean and you're in shape, you'll always look bigger on stage. So yeah, it was an interest of mine. It was like getting in shape, training. Like even to this day, when I continued on with my life thing, I became a strength and conditioning coach. I work with pro hockey. I strength coach at Springfield College for football and lacrosse. It's like, I love the science. So for me, when it was my training, it was about the science. So if I was going to fail, I used to say to Bob, I go, well, Bob, if I lose, it's all my fault. Yeah. So that was it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was almost like you just wanted to push yourself, Jeff, to see how good you could get, right? It was almost a personal thing.
Yeah. Like for example, Bob would say, you might need to back off on some of the leg work a little bit. You got to bring your back up and say, no. Like, and what stimulated that as well is like, I always liked the freaks of bodybuilding. Like I love Bertel. Tom Platz, he was a hero of mine, he was ridiculous. His upper body did, he did put more stuff on up top, but he was a freak. And for me, it was the freak factor. Like, that's why I did it. So if someone said, well, if you did this, you might have won, I'd be like, bullshit. Like, not why I do this. I do this to be as freaky as I could be, So that was the fun for me, And like I said, and you know how it is, it's an opinion too. I mean, it's a subjective.
It's totally subjective.
Yeah. And so, it used to kill me. And Matt, I know you can appreciate this. Like, I said, you got guys winning a lot at Big Daddies, and it really attracted a lot of people. And of course, there's like, well, I know Jeff, he farts and, he falls down the stairs. If he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
The human factor came in immediately. But guys would come back. Hey, how'd you do, man? I heard you look great. Oh, I got robbed. I hated when people said that. It's like, shut up and stop complaining. It's a subjective sport. You go there to be your personal best. There was a show, I forget, it was Mr. World I had placed. I was so much higher than I should have been. And it was so deflating. I didn't care where I came. I wasn't my best, or I didn't my goal. And so for me, it was always, if I came in that show and I was the best shape I felt I was ever in, then that's all I cared about. It doesn't matter what the judge said, win, lose, it was about me coming in at my personal best. And that's where I gained my satisfaction. But, a lot of people, they were in it to win, which I understand. It's still a competition, but, I think it's soiled for many the real fun of what it was about. And, the work, it's like climbing the mountain. It was like Christmas. I think I said this before, John. It was the wait, the anticipation, all that. The day of the show, it was like, oh, presents are open. It's over.
Right.
It's no fun. Like all the fun was the the climb, the
preparation,
struggle, and also the power of the mind. Bodybuilding was always for me a mind thing. You drove the physical, but it was the mind that would fail, not the body. The body just does what it's told to do. So
to some extent, though, we there's and I've seen this a lot with a lot of athletes where they get lost in the climb, and they enjoy their sport of training in the gym, and they forget that their goal is actually to try to be their very best and carve the physique, the shape, the conditioning, and all that to be their very best. But they lost it in the gym because they love to train. And I always said that don't let your love of training stop you from remembering it's a sport with a goal and an end. And a little bit different from Jeff. I was Joe's strategy, man. How am I going to take that trophy off the stage with me? And so it was, I love to train, but I would rather have the trophy. So what do I have to do to get the trophy?
Right.
And and whether it was not train too much or do more cardio or watch my diet better, or there was a situation where, I won the America by 1 point.
Did you really? Wow.
1 point.
Wow.
And the guy that I beat was phenomenal. It's Casey, Casey Kucherik. And I literally went through every single pose in my head about which one he destroyed me on and which ones I would look better aesthetically compared to that.
Yeah.
That's strategy, man. It's like, so yeah, I mean, it's personal best, but if I still came out with a trophy, that would be good too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's still the mission, of course.
How did it feel, Matt, when you won the America and then the Universe?
Yeah, it was a rush. John Grimmick was there. He was the first Mr. America. He handed me my trophy. That was pretty damn special.
Yeah.
Chris Dickerson was in the audience, my whole family, because we're from Springfield, Mass. Too,
yeah.
So I had everybody there. It was the last big show that Cliff Sawyer ran. He was the AAU chairman at that time, and he ran the show. So it was something special, and I was the hometown kid. I won it in the hometown. That was my first stage I ever competed on, that stage. Wow. And then I won the America. Thankfully, to my credit, the Massachusetts judge voted against me. So that was a good thing. I was like, thank you, Dave, for voting against me. It gave me credibility.
Yeah.
And then the Universe was that was just crazy. That was just nuts,
Yeah.
Again, I kind of did the Jeff thing. I was all about the science. I was, getting up every few hours in the flight to do some squats in the background and do, just to push water around so I didn't get edema and all that sort of stuff. And I was lucky. I probably wouldn't have won if I didn't have Bob Gruskin there, though. And I'll tell you a funny story, because they can't take the title away from me now. The guy that was doing the height check, he's since passed away, but he was a friend of Bob since Bob had gone over for how many years now, since '83. Yeah. And
Heidenstam, right?
Yeah, Heidenstam, right.
Oscar Heidenstam.
I don't know if it was Oscar that was doing the height check. It might have been somebody else, but it was somebody he knew. And Casey was in the medium class. And it's already 1 point against us, 1 point between us. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, if I show up in the medium class, these guys are literally, here I am at a $190, 95, and they're at 210, 215.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to get lost in that, but I'm over 5'6". And that's the cutoff, Jeff, as you know. For the short. So I've got these, the bodybuilding pantaloons on, the big baggy pants. So the guy says, put your heels up there. I put my heels up there, and Bob's talking to him nonstop. and they're talking, he's looking away, and I literally bow my back out with my knees slightly flexed in my big pantaloon things, and my head drops just to 5'6", just a fraction below. Oh, you're a short class, great. Short class, and then the show is going on, and Bob goes, more than one person said he's short class. Because I'm like 5'7" and 1/4 or something like that at that time. You know, now I'm probably 5'5". Who knows what I am now? But it was just funny.
Yeah,
that's a classic Bob thing.
Oh my God, Reg Park
right
was
there.
the judge.
really? Wow.
Yeah, he was one of the judges,
Mhm.
and man, he had it out for at least this American. I get all ones in the short class. He has me down to 6.
Wow, I'm kidding.
And they didn't let him judge in the overall.
No
with
kidding.
the class winners. They pulled him right out because
Scores are so off. Yeah.
Yeah, he just had it
Wow.
out for Americans that day. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. Bob came up to me as I'm sitting in the back, you know, in my Mickey Mouse sweatshirt and my sweatpants after the prejudging, and he goes, "So, how's it feel to probably be Mr. Universe?" Get the fuck out of here! Come on, are you? Did you see the guy from Australia? He's 6'4". You know what I mean? Like, what? Are you,
Yeah.
so, but it was cool. It was
Yeah. Amazing. How about you,
and then I was
Jeff?
done.
Yeah. How come you quit, Matt, after that?
I had legal issues basically with the government.
Okay.
You know, supplying my gear and getting my gear for competitions because I wasn't a natural athlete.
Yeah.
And you know, that led to some legal issues. And you know, as Jeff and I have talked in private, one of the best things that ever freaking happened to me ever, because you know, we see what's going on with bodybuilding now, you know, and it's a young man's sport, and the longevity isn't the best. You know, I think we just heard that Big Ramy is retiring. Did we?
Yeah, that's a rumor. Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, he won 2 Olympias. I think it's a smart move because the horizon's not long for guys that are walking around at 320.
Yeah.
Your heart, your lungs, your joints, you know, God bless him. But, you know, for me, basically I won the universe. I was getting some gear and the government didn't like that and, you know, brought a case against me and my bodybuilding was over. And, and, you know, for the grace of God, I was done at 23 and literally not a single health issue. And we still don't know if my back is related to bodybuilding. Certainly didn't help it, but that spondylolisthesis could have been there from a kid, you know.
Oh yeah, that's there's a normal prevalence of that.
Right, and it's congenital to some extent. 2 of my sisters have had lumbar fusions, so I mean, so yeah, I look back. It was a great time. I wouldn't change a thing. Because of stopping bodybuilding, I opened up a gym. I got married. I had 2 wonderful kids, which they go to the gym with me all the time now. It's a great life, you know, and I have no health ramifications, and I'm loving that, you know.
Yeah, back then the drug usage obviously wasn't as bad as it is today, right? I mean, you guys didn't have the growth hormone and the insulin and all the other stuff that was going on.
Growth was around. There were people that were doing it.
Okay.
The insulin growth factors, I don't think were there. The you know, I don't know what people are doing today. You know, I have no concept. I couldn't be a coach like Chris Aceto because I'm ignorant of all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you didn't see a Big Ramy on the NABBA stage.
Right.
You didn't see a Nasser El Sambadi on the NABBA stage. So does that mean that those genetically gifted people weren't in bodybuilding yet, or was it drug use? I'm not going to say. I don't know. I don't care. But you know, bodybuilding has changed. I liked what we did. You know, that was what we did. You know.
I talked to Rich Gaspari last week, and he made a good point too. He said a lot of these guys today are staying in it a lot longer. Like, you know, you were 23, Matt, and Jeff, you were young when you stopped competing. And these guys now are going into their 40s, almost into their 50s, you know, and they're staying on it for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, it's like any kind of drug, it's dose and duration related.
Yeah.
But it is awfully odd that you're just seeing, you know, in the new year, like within like 4 weeks, like
I know,
done, you know, like Jesus.
And they're young.
Yeah. But you know, a lot of back pressure on the heart. You know, it's a pump, like any pump. You know.
Yeah.
If you create, you know, and you think the exercise you're doing is all, you know, it's Valsalva maneuver. You're just driving those pressures up, and the bigger loads that maybe your natural body's governor would minimize you to do. And but
Jeff, how did you feel winning the America and then winning the Universe? I asked Matt that, and you know that had to be unbelievable. Like you said, not many people have done both of that, both the America and the Universe in the same year. Yeah,
you know, like it's sort of surreal, I guess, because you think like you know what I compare it like. You know, I've been married 3 times, so I know this very well. But it's sort of like you expect something to feel different. And then you win, and you're like, okay, where's the fireworks? You know? and you know, I remember that saying when I got married the first time, it was like I didn't feel any different. I'm like, well, this is odd, you know. And I think you know the America was definitely a culmination. Again, it was that excitement to build up, but then after you won it, it was almost it was
anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was. I'm like, wow, okay. It was like any other show I was in, honestly, you know. But then the pump was when I forget who came up. It was Pasquale, or not Pasquale. He was the wrestler, but he was a bodybuilder too. God, what was his name? I think he had something to do with the Underground Steroid book as well. But, you know, he came up, he says, well, hey, man, he goes, congratulations. He goes, so going to the Universe? And I'm like, what? I got to start school. And he said, man, you got to go to the Universe. So, you know, I said, okay. And then Bob's like, yeah, they pay your way. You know, the AAU, they're paying all the so then it juiced me up again, you know, like I got excited again. But then with it came all the, you know, the fans, I guess. And then that was fun. You know, that was a fun part of it. But you know,
and even the Universe opened a new chapter. I mean, you know, you're touring, you're seeing clubs all over the world, you're traveling, you're doing seminars and exhibitions. That's a pretty fun chapter. I mean, that'll keep you motivated. Plus the cash, you know.
Well, you know what the funny thing is though, because you know I'm a little bit obsessive.
No, come on.
So of course, being that everything was about training and staying on my diet, you're traveling. So it's next to impossible to, you know, so it was a learning curve. But I so remember, man, like the first couple of tours I went over there because John Brown ruled, you know, like what, he won the Universe 6 times, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'd go someplace. I'm like, hey man, I got to get to bed. I got to get up in the morning and train. And they're looking at me, go, John Brown, go to disco. And I'm like, I'm not John Brown, dude. I said, and the guys hated me because they, you know, I had to do a little bit of the social thing, but you know, I had to go to the gym in the morning. I'd be working out at 4 a.m. before I had to catch a flight. And you know, these guys hated me because they were like, you know, I remember one guy, he goes, no, you do no disco, you know, like no disco. And then he said, what time you want to be pick up? And I said, well, can you open the gym at this time? Because again, I still was on that regime. And such like I had blinders on, man. Like I I remember Serge Nubret. Oh, he was a hero of mine too. So Serge Nubret brought me over. You know, the guy is, again, a real gentleman, man. Everything was
class act.
I mean, he put me in the best hotels. So he says, I have my driver, and so, you know, he's going to drive you around if you want to go to the Eiffel Tower, all this. I'm like, Eiffel Tower? I don't need to see the Eiffel Tower. I mean, John, I like totally missed everything.
Oh,
yeah.
If I could turn the clock back, people said, well, what would you do different? The only thing I would do different is I would have relaxed a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, you only get with age, you know, you start to realize if I worry about it, doesn't make it happen any better, you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember, and I got in the car, and he drove me, he goes, there's, you know, Notre Dame, and I says, great, okay, I get back to the gym, you know? And I remember I was in Germany, and it was early in the morning, they opened the gym for me, and I was doing front squats, and, you know, the guys were just looking at me like, hey, this guy's crazy. And I remember when I was leaving, it was a photographer guy that had come, and he says, Jeff King, you're the perfect bodybuilder. You know, like I just wanted, you know, I wanted to do my stuff, and it was a job for me. You know, it was a job, and it was, I enjoyed it. Trust me, I had a very good time. I met a lot of incredibly awesome people, and